Childhood and homeland Ho Chi Minh, born as Nguyen Sinh Kung, was born on May 19, 1890, in Kim Lien Village, Nam Lien Commune, now Kim Lien, Nam Dan District, Nghe Province. This land is known as a place of outstanding people and talents, rich in traditions of learning and patriotism. His father, Nguyen Sinh Sac, 1862 to 1929, was a learned Confucian scholar who passed the imperial exam in 1901 with the title of Pho Bang. He was not only famous for his deep knowledge of Confucianism, but also for his compassion for the people, his hatred of tyranny, and his honest and upright life. His mother, Hoang Thi Loan, 1868 to 1901, was a virtuous and gentle woman, devoted to her family, and a shining example of sacrifice and patience in poverty. Nguyen Sinh Kung grew up in a scholarly family with strong patriotic traditions. From an early age, he showed intelligence, eagerness to learn, compassion, and independence. During his childhood, he followed his parents to many places, from Sen Village to Hue, where his father served as an official. His years at Quoc Hoc Hui School left a strong impression on his thinking, especially as he directly witnessed the oppression of the French colonialists and the suffering of his compatriots. Although Ho Chi Minh's childhood was difficult, it nurtured in him a resilient will, deep compassion for the poor, and a great aspiration for national independence and freedom. The seeds of patriotism, humanity, and unyielding spirit sown by his family and homeland became the roots that shaped the great personality of Ho Chi Minh. The journey to find a way to save the nation, 1911 to 1920. At the beginning of the 20th century, when the country was under French colonial rule, many patriotic movements arose, but all failed. From the Can Vuong movement, the Dong Du movement of Phan Boi Chau, to the Dui Tan movement of Phan Chau Trinh. Nguyen Tat Thanh, the new name of Nguyen Sinh Kung as he matured, realized that relying on foreign aid or half-hearted reforms would not free the nation from slavery. On June 5, 1911, under the name Van Ba, he boarded the French ship Admiral Latouche Treville at Nha Rong Wharf, Saigon, beginning his journey across the 5 continents to find a way to save the nation. This was a bold decision, demonstrating a vision beyond the beaten paths of his predecessors. During nearly 10 years, 1911 to 1920, he traveled to many countries, Africa, Algiers, Morocco, Tunisia, where he witnessed firsthand how local people were oppressed and exploited by colonialists, just like the Vietnamese. Europe, France, England, Belgium. He worked various jobs: kitchen helper, photo retoucher, hired laborer, and hard manual worker to make a living, while observing workers' lives and their struggle movements. America, he went to the United States, worked in New York and Boston, and came into contact with labor movements and ideas of democracy and human rights. Asia, China, Japan, where he connected with revolutionaries and learned more from their experiences. During this period, he not only worked to survive, but also studied political systems, societies, and revolutionary movements around the world. He realized that Vietnam's revolution could not rely on foreign assistance, but must rely on the united strength of its own people. Especially during his years in France, 1907 to 1920, he took part in the French workers' movement, wrote articles for Le Paria, The Oppressed, and directly engaged with many progressive ideological currents. In 1919, on behalf of the Association of Vietnamese Patriots in France, Nguyen Ai Quoc sent the claims of the Annamite people to the Versailles Conference, demanding that the French government and the world powers recognize the basic democratic freedoms for the Vietnamese people. Although the petition was rejected, it created a strong impression and made Nguyen Ai Quoc's name widely known. These experiences laid the foundation for Nguyen Ai Quoc in 1920 to find the true path for national salvation, the path of proletarian revolution. Coming to Marxism-Leninism, 1920 to 1930. After nearly a decade of traveling abroad, the year 1920 marked a historic turning point in Nguyen Ai Quoc's revolutionary thought and career. Embracing Marxism-Leninism. In France, he read V.I. Lenin's preliminary draft theses on the national and colonial questions, published in Humanité. For the first time, Nguyen Ai Quoc found an answer to the burning question that had long occupied his mind. How can oppressed nations achieve liberation? He affirmed, To save the country and liberate the nation, there is no other path than the proletarian revolution. In December 1920, at the Tours Congress of the French Socialist Party, Nguyen Ai Quoc voted in favor of joining the Communist International, becoming one of the founding members of the French Communist Party. From then on, he became a communist fighter closely tied to the international revolutionary movement. Activities in France and Europe. Nguyen Ai Quoc actively wrote articles and participated in the activities of the communist movement. He authored many famous works, including The Colonial Question and especially The French Colonial System on Trial, 1925, exposing the brutal and inhumane nature of colonialism. At the same time, he was deeply connected with workers' and peasants' movements, calling for unity against oppression. Studying and working in the Soviet Union, 1923 to 1924. In 1923, he went to the Soviet Union, the homeland of the October Revolution. There, he took part in activities of the Communist International, attended the Peasants' Bay International Conference and the Fifth Congress of the Communist International, while also learning revolutionary organizational experiences. This period further strengthened his faith in Marxism-Leninism and forged his political character. Organizing the revolutionary movement in Asia in 1924 to 1929. At the end of 1924, Nguyen Ai Quoc went to Guangzhou, China. There, he opened political training classes, educating many of Vietnam's future key revolutionary leaders, such as Tran Phu, Le Hong Phong, Pham Van Dong, and Vo Nguyen Giap. In 1925, he founded the Vietnamese Revolutionary Youth Association and published the Thanh Nien Youth newspaper to spread revolutionary ideals. In 1927, he published The Revolutionary Path, a collection of his lectures, which became the first theoretical handbook of the Vietnamese Revolution under the proletarian line, founding the Communist Party of Vietnam, 1930. In early 1930, when Vietnam's communist movement was divided into several separate organizations, Indochinese Communist Party, Annamese Communist Party, Indochinese Communist League, Nguyen Ai Quoc convened and chaired the conference to unify the communist organizations in Hong Kong, February 1930. The conference adopted the first political platform drafted by Nguyen Ai Quoc, which defined the revolutionary path of Vietnam: national liberation, gaining independence, and advancing toward building a communist society. Combining national strength with the strength of the times, with the Worker-Peasant Alliance as the foundation. From here, the Communist Party of Vietnam was founded, February 3rd, 1930, marking a great turning point in the nation's history, ending the crisis of revolutionary leadership and direction. Nguyen Ai Quoc was the one who laid the foundation, affirming his position as the genius leader of the Vietnamese Revolution. From the founding of the party to the August Revolution, 1930 to 1945, the early stage after the party's foundation, 1930 to 1931, right after the Communist Party of Vietnam was established, the revolutionary movement broke out vigorously. The Nghe Teen Soviet movement, 1930 to 1931, was powerful proof of the strength of the worker-peasant masses under the party's leadership. However, the French colonialists brutally suppressed it. Tens of thousands of fighters and civilians were arrested and imprisoned, and many party bases were destroyed. During this period, Nguyen Ai Quoc continued revolutionary activities abroad to maintain the connection between the Vietnamese Revolution and the international communist movement. He firmly upheld the proletarian revolutionary line and defended the party's first political platform. Years of imprisonment and exile, 1931 to 1940. In June 1931, in Hong Kong, Nguyen Ai Quoc was arrested by the British authorities. For nearly 2 years in British prisons, he remained steadfast in his revolutionary will and sought every way to maintain contact with the Communist International. By 1933, he was released and continued activities in various places: the Soviet Union, China, and Siam, Thailand. During 1936 to 1939, the democratic movement in Indochina rose in response to the Popular Front in France. Nguyen Ai Quoc persistently guided the movement, flexibly applying the line of struggle for democracy, livelihood, and civil rights to unite the masses. Returning to direct revolutionary leadership in Vietnam, 1941, In January 1941, after more than 30 years abroad seeking a path to national salvation, Nguyen Ai Quoc returned to the homeland, setting foot in Pac Bo, Cao Bang. He directly led the revolutionary movement in the country. In May 1941, the 8th Central Committee Conference, chaired by him, decided to establish the League for the Independence of Vietnam, Viet Minh, raising the slogan, temporarily put as the Land Revolution slogan, concentrate, liberational liberation. This was a strategic shift that successfully rallied the entire people against Japanese fascism and French colonialism. During this time, he both organized revolutionary armed forces and compiled many materials such as Our Nation's History, Independent Vietnam, and revolutionary songs to propagate and encourage the struggle. Leading the August General Uprising of 1945. In August 1945, after Japan surrendered to the Allies, a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity arose. Under the direct leadership of Ho Chi Minh and the party's Central Committee, the entire people nationwide rose up in a general uprising. On September 2, 1945, at Ba Dinh Square, Hanoi, President Ho Chi Minh, on behalf of the Provisional Government, read the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming the founding of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. This historic document affirmed the right to live, the right to liberty, and the right to pursue happiness of the Vietnamese people, while echoing the universal spirit of independence and freedom of humanity. The victory of the August Revolution opened a new era for the Vietnamese nation, the era of independence, freedom, and the people as masters of their destiny. Ho Chi Minh, becoming the supreme leader, deeply revered by the entire nation, affectionately called by the endearing name Uncle Ho. Building and defending the young government, 1945 to 1946. The context after the August Revolution. After seizing power, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam was born, but faced countless challenges. Enemies inside and outside. More than 200,000 Chiang Kai-shek troops entered the north. British troops entered the south, the French colonialists returned, and Japanese fascists had not yet fully withdrawn. The famine of 1945 had killed over 2 million people, with the threat of recurrence looming. The treasury was empty, and the young government lacked administrative experience. The literacy rate was extremely low, with 90% of the population illiterate. President Ho compared the situation to being 1,000 pounds hanging by a hair. Urgent measures. With strategic vision and flexible leadership, Ho Chi Minh and the provisional government introduced timely policies. Fighting hunger, launching the Rice Jar for Hunger Relief movement, calling on people to share food, banning alcohol production to save rice for the poor. Fighting illiteracy, initiating the mass education campaign, opening classes everywhere, mobilizing officials and students to teach. Within a short time, millions were lifted out of illiteracy. Defending the nation, pursuing a policy of conciliation, avoiding direct confrontation with multiple enemies at once. With Chiang Kai-shek's troops, the government combined struggle with diplomacy to force their withdrawal. With the French, Ho Chi Minh advocated negotiations, peace to progress, maintaining independence while preparing long-term strength, building a democratic people's government. On January 6, 1946, for the first time in history, the Vietnamese people voted in a general election with universal suffrage, regardless of wealth, gender, or religion. The First National Assembly was formed and established the official government with Ho Chi Minh as president. The preliminary agreement of March 6, 1946, facing the threat of conflict with France, Ho Chi Minh firmly defended the fragile independence through compromise. On March 6, 1946, our government signed the preliminary agreement with France, temporarily recognizing the Democratic Republic of Vietnam as a free state with its own government, parliament, army, and finances within the French Union. This was a skillful strategy, forcing 200,000 Chiang Kai-shek troops to withdraw and giving Vietnam more time to consolidate its forces. The significance of the 1945 to 1946 period. Under the leadership of President Ho Chi Minh, the young revolutionary government overcame life-or-death challenges and stood firm amidst storms. He was not only an outstanding leader, but also a simple, close figure, sharing food, living modestly in a small stilt house, blending with the people. The 1945 to 1946 period demonstrated Ho Chi Minh's brilliant leadership and wisdom, combining diplomatic flexibility with resolute struggle while laying the political, economic, and cultural foundations for the nation, and at the same time defending independence. This was an important prelude to Vietnam's long-term resistance against French colonialism. The resistance against the French colonialists, 1946 to 1954, the nationwide resistance erupts after the preliminary agreement of March 6, 1946, and the Provisional Accord of September 14, 1946. The French colonialists broke their promises and continued their plot to reinvade our country. On the night of December 19, 1946, Ho Chi Minh issued the call for national resistance, affirming, "We would rather sacrifice everything than lose our country, than live in slavery." The nationwide resistance broke out. Hanoi, Nam Dinh, and many other cities simultaneously rose up to fight. Ho Chi Minh and the party Central Committee withdrew to the Viet Bac resistance base to lead the long-term struggle. Strategy of all people, all-sided, long-term, and self-reliant resistance. Under Uncle Ho's guidance, the resistance against France was built upon the following strategic principles. All people, everyone, young or old, male or female, took part. All-sided, fought on all fronts, military, political, economic, cultural, and diplomatic. Long-term, prepared for a protracted war. Self-reliance, relying primarily on our own strength while making use of international support. This strategy turned the resistance into a broad people's war, gradually bogging down the enemy. Viet Bac, the capital of resistance, 1947. In the autumn of 1947, the French launched a large-scale offensive on Viet Bac, aiming to destroy the leadership of the resistance. Ho Chi Minh and the Politburo directly commanded the struggle. With indomitable spirit, the army and people of Viet Bac crushed the attack, safeguarding the resistance base and preserving the leadership role of the party's Central Committee and the government. Building forces and strengthening the resistance, 1948 to 1953. In the following years, Ho Chi Minh focused on building both political and military strength, while also emphasizing diplomacy. He issued important decrees, launched the patriotic emulation movement, and called for increased production and thrift. He paid great attention to the lives of soldiers and the people, writing many letters to encourage army units, laborers, teachers, and students. Uncle Ho became a great source of spiritual encouragement, igniting the faith in ultimate victory. The Dien Bien Phu victory, 1954. In December 1953, the Politburo decided to launch the Dien Bien Phu campaign, the strategic decisive battle against the French. Ho Chi Minh personally monitored and directed the campaign, encouraging cadres and soldiers with heartfelt words. "This battle is extremely important. We must fight to win. If we are certain of a victory, then fight. If not, then don't." After 56 days and nights, March 13th to May 7, 1954, our army and people achieved the resounding Dien Bien Phu victory, shaking the world, forcing France to sign the Geneva Accords, July 1954, recognizing the independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of Vietnam. The significance of Ho Chi Minh's leadership. The Dien Bien Phu victory and the Geneva Accords marked the pinnacle of the wisdom, determination, and willpower of the Vietnamese people under Ho Chi Minh's leadership. He was not only an exceptional political leader, but also the very soul of the people's resistance, successfully combining national strength with the spirit of the times. The 1946 to 1954 period affirmed that, under Ho Chi Minh's banner, the Vietnamese nation achieved decisive victory, ending nearly a century of French colonial rule. Building socialism in the North and struggling for national reunification, 1954 to 1969. Context after the Geneva Accords of 1954. The Geneva Accords, July 1954, ended the war in Indochina, forcing France to withdraw its troops. However, the country was temporarily divided into two regions at the 17th parallel. The North, completely liberated, moving toward building socialism. The South fell under the control of Ngo Dinh Diem's US-backed puppet regime, which brutally suppressed the revolutionary movement. In this situation, Ho Chi Minh and the party's Central Committee put forward two strategic tasks. 1. Building socialism in the North. 2. continuing the struggle to liberate the South and achieve national reunification. Building socialism in the North, 1954 to 1969. Under Ho Chi Minh's leadership, the North embarked on socialist construction, economy, land reform, 1953 to 1956, redistributed land to peasants, agricultural cooperatives were established, both heavy and light industries were developed, education and culture, the school system expanded, illiteracy was eradicated, higher education and vocational training were developed, literature, arts, and journalism were encouraged to serve the people. Politics and society, the people's democratic state apparatus was strengthened, national unity was consolidated, patriotic emulation movements were launched with the spirit. Each person works twice as hard for our beloved South. The North gradually became a solid rear base, simultaneously building socialism and sending manpower and resources to support the great Southern battlefield. Struggling to liberate the South, 1954 to 1969. In the South, Ngo Dinh Diem's regime carried out brutal repression against revolutionary forces. In response, Ho Chi Minh and the party decided to establish the National Front for the Liberation of South Vietnam, 1960, uniting all social classes to fight against U.S. Diem domination. Ho Chi Minh affirmed, "The South is always in my heart." He devoted deep affection and care to the Southern compatriots, considering the liberation of the South a sacred mission of the entire nation. In the 1960s, the U.S. sent hundreds of thousands of troops to directly wage war in the South and carried out destructive bombing in the North. Ho Chi Minh led the people in a resilient resistance, turning the North into a stronghold against the U.S. while continuing to send vital support to the South. The last years of his life, despite his advanced age and declining health, Uncle Ho closely followed every step of the revolution. He wrote numerous articles and poems to encourage the fighting spirit, with his testament, 1965 to 1969, being his most profound legacy of guidance. On September 2, 1969, President Ho Chi Minh passed away in Hanoi at the age of 79. The entire nation and international friends mourned him, the great leader of the Vietnamese people, national liberation hero, and outstanding cultural figure of humanity. Significance of the 1954 to 1969 period. Ho Chi Minh skillfully steered the Vietnamese Revolution through this difficult era, simultaneously building socialism in the North while leading the resistance against the U.S. in the South. His leadership laid the foundation for the ultimate victory of national liberation and reunification. The testament and spiritual legacy of Ho Chi Minh, a shining example. Ho Chi Minh left behind a shining example of patriotism inseparably linked with socialism and of revolutionary ethics, diligence, thrift, integrity, righteousness, and absolute selflessness. Although he did not live to witness the final victory on April 30th, 1975, the path he charted led the nation to complete triumph and reunification. The historic testament. From 1965, as his health declined, Ho Chi Minh began writing his testament, a final document addressed to the entire party, people, and armed forces. He wrote it in parts on his birthdays each year and completed it in 1969. In his testament, he entrusted the nation with vital instructions regarding the party: preserve unity and solidarity, maintain purity and integrity, and remain worthy as both leader and loyal servant of the people. Regarding the people, devote full care to the people's well-being, especially war invalids, families of martyrs, veterans, and pay attention to youth, women, and children. Regarding the Vietnamese Revolution, continue the struggle to liberate the South and achieve national reunification. Regarding international relations, extend warm greetings to fraternal communist parties and progressive peoples around the world. Most importantly, he emphasized, in the end, I leave boundless love for all the people, the entire party, for the whole army, and for the youth and children. The testament is a compass for the Vietnamese Revolution, embodying the intellect, spirit, ethics, and affection of a great leader. His passing on. September 2nd, 1969, the 24th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, President Ho Chi Minh passed away in Hanoi. His death was an immeasurable loss for the Vietnamese people and friends worldwide. The entire world bowed in respect to a man who dedicated his life to the cause of national and human liberation, an immortal legacy. Ho Chi Minh left an enduring spiritual legacy for Vietnam and humanity. Ho Chi Minh thought, a system of ideas on national independence tied to socialism, on the power of the people, on national and international solidarity, and on revolutionary ethics. Moral example and lifestyle, living simply, modestly, close to the people, wholeheartedly devoted to the nation and its people, always matching words with actions. Revolutionary cause. The path he laid out led Vietnam to victory on April 30th, 1975, unifying the country and ushering in an era of independence inseparably linked with socialism. Ho Chi Minh in the hearts of humanity. Not only in Vietnam, but also around the world, Ho Chi Minh has been honored as a hero of national liberation and great man of culture. UNESCO, 1987. His image is associated with the universal aspirations of freedom, equality, and humanity. Conclusion. The life of Ho Chi Minh is an immortal epic. From a young boy in Nghe, he rose to become a brilliant revolutionary, the beloved leader of the Vietnamese nation, and a cultural icon of the world. He has passed away, but his thought, ethics, style, and revolutionary legacy will forever illuminate the path of the Vietnamese people, a bright torch guiding the nation on its journey of building and defending the fatherland. Writing variant standard, title YouTube closing script in English, IDang3215. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the stories from Vietnamese Storytell, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming stories. See you in the next video.